So as we all know, 2022 free agency was pretty crazy for the Jaguars. They distributed about $175 million in total cash, actually broke an NFL record for most amount of guaranteed money dished out to new players. They bring in guys like Christian Kirk, Brandon Sheriff, Foye Oluokun, Evan Ingram, a bunch of players that, really helped spark the Jaguars. And without that big free agency signing, you can pretty much say that the Jaguars would not have made the playoffs, would not have won the AFC South, would not have, made any kind of run at all. They would not have the opportunity. So it really did, come in clutch for the Jaguars. However, the Jaguars this offseason, not a whole lot of action. I mean, actually, only the Jaguars and the Ravens are the only teams in the NFL that have had no additions to their rosters, which is, pretty crazy to look at. Now, before free agency, the Jaguars had a combination of 14 different restricted and unrestricted free agents. Before free agency actually began, the Jaguars franchise tagged Evan Ingram. They gave CJ Beathard and JaMychal Hasty new deals to allow them to be on a team. Those are three of those 14 guys. And then during free agency, the Jaguars re-signed Andrew Wingard as well as cornerback Trey Herndon. And a couple days ago, they re-signed Adam Gotsis and also cornerback Tavon Campbell, not to be confused with Tyson Campbell, but Tavon Campbell. And the Jaguars unfortunately lost Jawan Taylor to the Kansas City Chiefs. Also lost tight end Chris Manhertz to the Denver Broncos, and lost outside linebacker Arden Key to the Tennessee Titans, which I haven't talked much about that yet, but that one really, really stinks. I mean, it's one thing to lose a guy. It's another thing to lose him to the Titans. But, I know a lot of people are giving a lot of hate to this guy. But look, at the end of the day, you're going to follow the money. You only get one NFL career. If I were him, I would chase the money. And unfortunately for Jaguar fans, that wound up being the Tennessee Titans. However, when you look at the way their roster is looking and constructed, I don't think the Titans are going to be doing much next year. So it's his loss. He won't be a part of us. But he signed a pretty good 3-year deal over there with the Titans, and the Jaguars were kind of left hanging on that one because I doubt that the Jaguars really gave him anything near that amount. So some free agents that are outstanding for the Jaguars are tight end Dan Arnold, wide receiver Marvin Jones, defensive end DeJuan Smoot, and defensive tackle Corey Peters. Now, when I look at this free agency, it makes me worried about the defensive line. Of the players that are still on the Jaguars from last year, defensive linemen, there were only 18 and a half sacks from them in 2022. Jaguars are going to lose two big heavy hitters when it comes to that category from last year that was getting pressure. One of them, the aforementioned Arden Key, and then another guy is DeJuan Smoot. Now, DeJuan Smoot, the Jaguars can still re-sign him, but, he's a guy that is older. He's tore his Achilles late in the 2022 season, in December, late December 22nd. So, he's going to have a little bit of transition coming back. So if the Jaguars are able to re-sign him on the cheap, what is he going to do? What kind of impact will we really have? So I'm pretty much counting him out of that equation. So the Jaguars, I just wonder where the pressure is going to come from. Now, a big thing is obviously going to be number one pick from 2022, Trayvon Walker. He's in a situation where we're not playing with house money on him. We're not sitting here saying, okay, great run defender, and if he's able to get sacks, that's a bonus. No, he was the number one player selected in the 2022 NFL draft. And look, we all knew in year one, it was going to be a transition. Everybody told us that, from the experts to the scouts to the, GM himself. Everybody said, look, this is a traits guy. He has the highest ceiling, but year one, he's not, going to be that true edge rusher. This offseason is very important for him. I mean, as I'm talking right now, I hope this guy's working on pass rushing moves because, that's what this guy has to be able to unlock. And he needs to become a dominant pass rushing force, or else that number one overall pick is going to look pretty stupid. So that's what the Jaguars need. Will they draft the guy? I don't know. It's just, if you have a hole at cornerback, I think that's fine because, look, you can depend on a rookie to be able to do some good things at cornerback. But when it comes to, edge rusher, pass rusher, whatever, guys, it's going to be getting pressure on the quarterback. Year one, especially where the Jaguars are at pick number 25, you really can't bank on that happening. Usually edge rushers and pass rushers, take a couple years to be able to develop, where, sometimes cornerbacks, you can plug them in right away and they're great. So I'm a little bit worried. I'm all about the whole philosophy of, if you're not getting better, then you're getting worse. And the Jaguars have certainly got a lot worse on this defensive line with, the losses of Arden Key, and with the one Smoot probably not going to be his full form. So, we'll see what the Jaguars do there. Maybe they still go out there and make some moves. I mean, there's some guys out there that they could be interested in, but we'll talk about that later. Now, really, with the Jaguars' philosophy in 2023, I think it's all about being able to outscore teams, because, as boring as the Jaguars' free agency has been, we got to also think that the big addition for the Jaguars came in November when you traded for Calvin Ridley. And Calvin Ridley is looking fantastic right now. He looks like he's hungry. He looks like he's a guy that wants to have a tremendous year next year. And then you also factor in just Trevor Lawrence taking the next step, not playing half a season great, playing a full season of being great and being even better, than his ceiling from last year. We're going to need that. Also, Travis Etienne going into his second year in the NFL, technically third year, but we all know he missed his rookie year with the foot injury, which, in retrospect, look, this man played every game in 2023 or 2022. So, good on him for being able to come back and play well. And then you also got to think with Juwan Taylor being gone, we'll see if the combination of, Walker Little and Cam Robinson, maybe that duo, takes our offensive line to the next level. Hopefully, Juwan Taylor wasn't the greatest in certain categories. So hopefully, Walker Little can step in there and do his thing. And, who knows which position they're going to play. I know on paper, it looks like it's pretty easy to say Cam Robinson's going to be left tackle, because you don't teach an old dog new tricks. And Walker Little has played a bunch of right tackle, but, you never know, because Cam Robinson seems like, more of a downhill run grader. And usually you want that player at right tackle. And, Walker Little, you'd rather have your better offensive lineman play left tackle. So, we'll see. We'll see with that. Now, could the Jaguars sign some more players? I mean, at this moment, the Jaguars have $9 million in available cap, and you have to allocate a lot of that toward draft picks that you're going to come out there and draft. So, how did the Jaguars will probably need to create more cap space to be able to potentially bring in some more high caliber players. Now, you can sign guys to, a 2-year, $2 million contract, whatever. I'm not an expert in this category, but I'm certain there's things you can do. One thing I look at is that you have $33 million tied up in, 100% on the cap contracts when it comes to Josh Allen and Calvin Ridley, both playing on their fifth-year contracts, fifth-year options, as well as Evan Ingram playing on a franchise tag. If you're able to restructure Ingram, get him on a 3-year deal, extend that number out, you're going to get some cap savings there. You probably want to see Calvin Ridley before you give him a big deal. With Josh Allen, he's probably not going to get the kind of contract that Josh Allen wants, because at this moment, Josh Allen doesn't make a lot of sense to sign him to a big deal, because he probably isn't deserving of that. So he'd probably rather be in a situation where, okay, let me have an outstanding 2023 season, have me command that big contract, and then get me paid, which would be so Jaguars, because you already know now that Josh Allen's in a contract year, he's going to get 16 sacks, and he's going to cost the Jaguars $25 million a year. It's coming. It's coming. I don't make the rules here. So, yeah, we'll see with that one. Now, what do the Jaguars still need? I mean, they lost Arden Key. You're not bringing anybody in. You're probably out the one Smoot. So you need defensive linemen, that's for sure, guys to get pressure on a quarterback. You need tight end. You only have 3 tight ends on the roster. And I put cornerback on here. I would think cornerback's a need right now, but, because last year, I mean, you had guys at nickel like Buster Brown, who you drafted in the 7th round. They just re-signed Trey Herndon, which, I mean, the Jaguars organizations always seem to love Trey Herndon, even though he's slow as heck. But maybe we expect that our starting nickel cornerback for next year is going to be a draft pick. But it's just hard to project where that draft pick is going to come from. Luckily, the Jaguars, they have all their draft picks. They're not like missing a 2nd rounder or missing a 3rd rounder. Look, you definitely have your draft capital. Granted, it's at the end of each round as opposed to what we're used to at the beginning. But yeah, we're going to need to definitely draft cornerback. Now, Some other random notes that I wanted to make, just some stuff that might be interesting to Jags fans. I mentioned a couple of videos ago, Calais Campbell was released. Maybe they bring him in on a cheap deal to help boost our pass rush. Former Jaguars kicker Josh Lambo retired from the NFL, which 2 years ago this guy was one of the better kickers in the NFL, and gosh, he's had an interesting 2 years where he was awful in 2021. Kicked by Urban Meyer, had the hip injury, all that stuff. It was just not a good year. He was released. He never found his way on a roster again. He was on for some practice squads. He had some workouts, but overall, just nothing ever situated well with him, and he's officially retired. So, man, that's a quick downfall, I guess, a little bit for Josh Lambo. But he made his money. Hopefully he kept some of it, and if he did, then he's gonna have a long life with a lot of money. So also the 2019 draft class, shout out to Dave Caldwell for that one. Jawan Taylor got paid. Jaguars tight end Josh Oliver got a lot of money from the Minnesota Vikings. I mean, that guy looked like a guy that was going to be out of the NFL quick. The Jaguars gave him up for a bag of peanuts a couple years ago, and he caught on pretty well with the Ravens, well enough to get him a contract from the Minnesota Vikings. So shout out to him. Also, third round pick Quincy Williams signed an extension with the New York Jets. I'm not as mad about missing out on Quincy Williams just because, look, he's more so built as a 4-3 weak side linebacker. He's just not a great fit for our current defense, but he's doing a good job of Rob Saleh's defense, and he earns an extension and he gets to keep on playing with his brother Quinnen Williams, who was a first-round pick. Another note: Gardner Minshew signs a 1-year deal with the Indianapolis Colts. The Colts are in a weird situation because you look at them and they're getting a lot worse this free agency. I mean, Paris Campbell signed with the New York Giants. Stephon Gilmore got traded to the Cowboys. Bobby Okereke signed a deal with, I believe, the Giants as well. So, yeah, they are not in a very good position. So you look at them and say, okay, Gardner Minshew, he's going to start the year and then until the rookie quarterback gets some, play time. But really, I look at this and think okay, at this moment, the Colts have the number 4 overall pick in the NFL draft. There's reports that the Panthers trade up, but they might be willing to move back. No, you're not trading all the way up to number 1 to move back. I mean, maybe they move back to number 2 because there's 2 guys they really like, but no way they want to risk moving back to the number 4 overall pick when they've been struggling at quarterback as much as they have. So it looks like when the Indianapolis Colts pick, at best, there are 2 quarterbacks off the board. So they might have to settle with their 3rd or 4th option. Could they be in a situation where they want to tank the 2023 season and get the number 1 overall pick and get Caleb Williams from USC? Because if they're left with Anthony Richardson and Will Levis, do they feel confident enough about those guys to do it? Or would they rather be able to ride Gardner Minshew for a year? Gardner Minshew knows what it's like to be on a tanking team. Maybe we had Blake Bortles as a COVID quarterback. Maybe Gardner Minshew becomes the tanking quarterback where he hops from one tanking team to another and starts for them. I say that tongue in cheek. I know there's a lot of Gardner Minshew lovers out there. I'm not his biggest fan, but yeah, he's going to sign a 1-year deal with the Colts, either as a bridge quarterback or maybe he starts the whole year as a Colts. I don't know what they're going to do. I don't know what their plan is, but I'm all about tanking. You guys remember me back in 2020. By about week 3, I said, all right, guys, we're going to lose a lot of fans for this, but I think the Jags should not win another game this year. And because I want to get the best quarterback to be able to give us success. And what did that get us? That got us Trevor Lawrence. Imagine if the Jaguars did not tank and we wound up with the 3rd best quarterback, and we're sitting here debating whether Mac Jones can be a top 5 quarterback. Nope. We got Trevor Lawrence, worked out for us. I wonder if the Colts do the same or what their plan is. So, yeah, we'll see. Now, former Jaguars running back James Robinson signed a 2-year deal with the New England Patriots, which good for him. And also, doesn't he just feel like a Patriots running back? Just a solid runner, a little bit boring play style. But yeah, he just feels like a New England Patriots running back. Jalen Ramsey got traded to the Dolphins for a third-round pick, more of a salary dump type of situation. Miles Jack was actually cut by the Pittsburgh Steelers, only there for a year. Was a little bit disappointing for them, which the Miles Jack thing is interesting. Like when you look back at that pick, top of the second round, he's definitely no bust. He wasn't any home run. I would probably say he's a solid pick. He's got all the athleticism in the world. I just wonder how good his football IQ is. Because the Jaguars played him on a bunch of different positions. Nothing really worked outside of like a weak side linebacker in a 4-3 system, and even he was a little bit, he was a little bit inconsistent with that. He went to the Steelers, which seemed like a great fit for him, and just didn't work out there. So I don't know. I think his issue maybe might be football IQ. Also, Unique Ngakoue is a free agent. Maybe the Jaguars take a swing on him. Probably not because he hates the Jaguars and Tony Khan and whatnot. But maybe. Another random note: Mercedes Lewis is out there and available. He's 38 years old, drawing interest from the Jets, of course, because they have Aaron Rodgers, or going to have Aaron Rodgers, and also the Las Vegas Raiders. And he's actually the oldest non-quarterback with multiple starts in 2022. So this guy is just still chugging along. Shout out to him. So yeah, week 1 is kind of over. We'll see what the Jaguars do. I'm not going to be overly negative, but I am a little bit skeptical about some of the stuff. But at the end of the day, the AFC South is terrible. I feel pretty good about, really where we're going with head coach Doug Peterson, Trevor Lawrence. We just got to hope that we knock out next year's draft. We got to hope that, rookies like Devin Lloyd and Trayvon Walker take the next step, and, we continue to move in the right direction. So this video is long enough. I appreciate you guys watching. Drop a like for me. Go Jags.